Welcome back. This is segment 2 of Citizens Forum. We're going to be talking about the election. It's the Medhi, Walt, and Jack show. Medhi, there's only like 3 weeks to go. They tell us the economy is the big issue. So what have you got to say about it?
I thought it's very important to, at the beginning of the election call, the economist Jim Stanford wrote a very good paper and showed that among all the administration after World War II in Canada, all the governments, Harper government has the worst record. And he looked at 16 economic factors, and in every one of them, either they come worse or second worst.
So in every, compared to every other government since World War II. I remember seeing that.
Yes. And then, for example, I give you a few examples of it. Job creation. They had the worst record of job creation among all the other government of Canada since World War II. In terms of GDP growth, average annual growth in GDP, adjusted for inflation, they came worst again. You know, there were 9 government and they came number 9th. In terms of export of goods from Canada, which show the health of the economy, they came 9th again, worst. And in terms of household debt, which show the economy of the people, you know, where they are, it came worse again. So when they talk about we should be very happy with the economic situation is good, that we have a balanced budget, or you know, the economic condition are good, are better than many other countries, they tell us. Whose economic condition are they talking about? Economic condition of ordinary Canadian citizens or the elite? When it's come to the economic condition of elite, they never had it as good. They are right. But when it's come to the ordinary citizen, the hunger, for example, child hunger, 12% increase just came out in a study from Toronto area, Greater Toronto area, 12% increase in use of the food banks. And we never had food banks in early 1980s in this country, you know, or 1970s. What's happened? Because they are changing. The government, instead of working for you and me and representing us and work for our benefit, they are working for the benefit of the market. And who is market? Corporations. That is, so the government is there to manage us while implementing corporate agenda. And when they talk about the surplus, for example, the headline was, Federal Department left $8.7 billion unspent. That's how they got surplus. 1.1 billion of it was from Veteran Affairs. How many veterans committed suicide because they couldn't get the help because of the PTSD? 170, more than 170 committed suicide. And Mr. Harper is proud to have a surplus while he took $1.1 billion from Veteran Affairs budget and not spend it. And we have 170 people dead. Another one, $2.7 billion from unemployment insurance. They took $2.7 billion in order to make the so-called balanced budget. What's happened there? Here is the mothers. I have 3 examples of mothers, you know, and there is a huge group of them, more than 6,000. They are in a lawsuit now. That these mothers, for example, newly give birth to their kids. They have their maternity leave, and then right away they got into cancer, breast cancer, for example. They wouldn't give them money
from unemployment insurance.
From unemployment insurance. And so they have to go to court. The government lost in the court. They appeal these type of things in order to just act like a psychopath. You know? So you see, the government of Canada is not working for the people of Canada.
What I don't understand is, we have a whole election going on, and you're the only one who's saying this. I mean, how can we have an election when nobody is saying this?
We are going to get Mr. Harper re-elected because this is phony opposition. They are not talking about his record. $350 million was taken from the budget of refugee budget. 350 in order to make their budget balanced. And there was a lots of cut to regulatory program. We talked about before about what's happened in Lac-Mégantic, what's happened with listeriosis crisis, because the regulatory programs are being weakened, people they don't need. Another thing, they cut down the research station. They fired more than 2,000 scientists. They destroyed the science libraries of Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, Fishery and Ocean Canada is gone. And they say, oh, we are very good government. We have a balanced budget. Yes, if you destroy Canada and have a balanced budget, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
It's crazy.
We had to kill the patient to save them. I mean, the thing that you mentioned, I mean, I've always believed, Medhi, that in this day and age that countries can sort out their differences when there's hot spots, when things flare up into armed struggles, that we have the resources to go there, help people to settle their differences peacefully, and Canada's sending soldiers into harm's way now to carry out the foreign policy agenda of Stephen Harper and his friends. And these people are being slaughtered, and when what's left of them, when they come back home and try to repiece their lives together, their backs are turned on them by the very government that sent them there. In most cases, in my view, in wars that are unjust. Now, that's not the soldier's problem. That's not the soldier's job, is to decide what is a just war. But to me, it's just even more galling to see that happen, that they're destroying these lives and then they're not giving us any chance at all to try to recover,
You're absolutely right. And Medhi, what you say, it's just so shocking to hear it because nobody else is saying it.
They don't want to talk about these things because none of them want to change. These cuts has been done that they are not saying if they are going to reverse the process.
Yeah.
You mean the Liberals and the NDP?
Yes, and when Mr. Marker saying the most important principle for him is balanced budget, that means all these cuts is going to remain. Let me talk about Mr. Marker a little bit, because people don't know. Mr. Marker, when he talk about balanced budget, that means he is embracing neoliberal agenda. That is exactly what Harper is doing. The market should rule. The people are not as important as the market. The people are there for the pleasure of the market. That's what he's saying. Mr. Marker supported, for example, Margaret Thatcher. Let me read to you what he said in 2001 in the legislature of Quebec. A government should never pretend it can replace the private market. It does not work. Marker said in 2001, quote, "It did not work in England up until Thatcher's time. That's what they tried. The government stuck its nose everywhere. Interventionism is a failure. A government can create the condition conducive to the creation of jobs, but the best way for a government to create wealth is to let the private market thrive and to get off the back of businessmen and women." This is right of Genghis Khan, and Margaret Thatcher.
And now, right like Stephen Harper.
And now this guy claiming that he's concerned. He's for the ordinary people. We can, that's why people little by little are seeing through who he really is, and his number is going down. And I predict his number is going to go much further down because the jig is up. Mr. Marker, when he was running for his leadership campaign, he got a contribution from powerful capitalists like Jerry Schwartz of Onyx Corporation and Anthony Monk of Barrick Gold, the Monk debate, So these and many other big capitalists in Bay Street, they put money
into his campaign for the leadership of the NDP.
of NDP, yes. And now we see the gentleman that talk about, you know, I mean, this is not the NDP of Jess Woodworth and Tommy Douglas.
Yeah.
This is the NDP of corporate interest NDP, because now he's supporting F-35. Everybody know this is a boondoggle, you know. And now the Social Democrats are pushing for buying F-35. This is crazy.
Yeah, I you know, like just touching back on though the looking at Mulcair's place in the polls. Theoretically, there's been a new poll released saying that he slipped into third place and all that. Now, do you think that he was actually ever that popular, that the pollsters were really finding that he was in first place? Or do you think perhaps that was a manufactured situation and now they're letting him drift back to where he traditionally has been?
If you look at the polls in 2013-14, you see Mr. Mulcair is in third place, and Mr. Trudeau is in first, and Harper in between. And then if you look at all the by-election that happened since 2011, NDP did not do good in them. And we saw what's happened in Ontario, the Ontario election. The NDP went and pushed for the Conservative and become a right-winger actually in that election, and the people of Ontario see through it and did not vote for them. That's why Liberals got the majority. And I think the same thing is going to happen. In Ontario, people are going to, those that wanted to Mr. Harper gone, those votes are going to go to the Liberals. But still, I should say, right now Mr. Harper is the winner. If the election happened today, regardless of what the poll said, he is going to have much more seats than Liberals, even if Liberals are ahead on 33% and Mr. Harper is 31%. You know, he's going to have.
Is that because of the seat distribution?
Seat distribution is going to be 133, 135 for the Conservative, and maybe around 100 for the Liberals. So they are going to have a much higher seats, and they are going to be the winner of the election. People have to realize that, and the question is why the so-called opposition is not talking about the record of the Harper. And I am suggesting the reason they are not talking about it because they don't want to change those harsh austerity measurements that Mr. Harper adopted.
Wow. So, I mean, I say the whole election is a sham, and I think you're kind of saying the same thing, that the parties are kind of playing a game.
It is ridiculous. Yesterday you saw the debate. The debate.
The monk debate.
Yeah, the monk debate. First of all, the debate was among 3,000 people were there present, and these are mostly monk members. You know, they pay between $35 to $100. They are the elite of the society. They are mostly right-wingers, you know, neoconservative type. The monk institution is a neoconservative institution. And when they were saying something, Mr. Harper making a statement, and they were clapping, creating an impression for the audience that is at home that the people of Canada like what was hearing, you know, when they were pushing for war, calling, for example, Mr. Putin is the aggressor, you know, which is a ridiculous notion. If anybody want to look at who is the aggressor in Ukraine, just go and look at the map, you know, and see when Canada sent their gunboat to the Black Sea, who is provocative?
That's right. We're sending
who's
ships
aggressive
to the Russian coast.
Russian borders.
Yes.
You know,
and troops.
Mm-hmm.
And also they don't tell the fact about what's happened with the coup in Ukraine. But we see all three parties, leaders, are saying the same thing when it's come to foreign policy. Why? Because they adopted a neoconservative agenda in terms of foreign policy. And they adopted a neoliberal agenda when it's come to economy and market.
So
We are done. We are cooked. Unless we start realizing what is happening to our society, what are they doing to us, and what is the solution. A small part in going towards solution is not to engage these guys. You know, maybe in Victoria, in Vancouver Island, we go a different way. We say no to all these three sets of stooges of the elite and go with the Greens. I'm not saying that they are the solution, but is the best choice right now it is to choose the Greens, because if we send them there to the parliament, they are going to be in constant dialogue with their constituents. They promised that. They said that they are going to have at least 9 public accountability meetings each year with their constituents. And I think that would be very, very important, because in those meetings, we can start talking about what people want and push them to go back to parliament and talk about people's agenda and people needs, not the market needs, not the elite needs.
You know, Medhi, you've been saying that for years about the importance of our elected representatives meeting with us. And when you first started to talk about it, I didn't think it was an important issue. But just the fact that none of them will do it, except for the Greens, means there's something very wrong here. Like, none of our elected representatives, once the election is over, have time for us. But they have lots of time for the people at the top.
And by the way, the Barrick Gold, the Monk debate, just in September 12 of this year, just a few days ago, there was a massive release of toxic waste and toxic material laden with cyanide in a mine in Argentina.
One of Barrick's.
Barrick Gold Mine.
And that's who Monk
and
is.
It's
the Monk
devastating the huge area of Argentina. Barrick Gold is involved with lots of problems in the state of Nevada with the First Nation, in Tanzania, in Papua New Guinea. Nobody talk about that type of foreign policy. What kind of foreign policy is this? That we send this so-called Canadian corporation to devastate the life of the people in third world countries, in developing countries, and then they say, oh, we don't know why they hate us so much. Yeah. What did we do?
That sounds a lot like the Imperial Mines disaster here in British Columbia, you know. Hardly, after about a week, it was hardly being mentioned anymore. And, you know, the rivers and the lakes have been poisoned forever practically. But still, though, Medhi, I agree with you that I think we have to be taking our own path. And I agree that we see what the actions of the NDP have taken in the last provincial election and the federal election, and you look at their campaign managers and all the skullduggery that went on in our election appears to be a rerun again federally. So I think we have to find another way, and I think the public has to get more engaged.
And Medhi, you said earlier when we were talking that there's no talk of homelessness or poverty in this election either.
No, it's because the market. See, because of that overwhelming views that we should just concern about the market. And then the people don't have any, they are not considered.
We're out of time. Medhi, thank you very much. Walt, thank you very much. And thanks for watching this episode or this segment of Citizens Forum.